Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the PodUp with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. PodUp, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Tuesday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Glad you're along for the ride. We've got a good show lined up today. We're going to be joined here shortly by Frank Frangie, voice of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then in the second portion, we'll be joined by Buddy Martin, talking Gator sports. But let's go straight to the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. And we're joined by the voice of the Jaguars, who has a little pep in his step today, Frank Frangie. Good morning, Frank. How are you?
Good morning, Shane. I'm doing well. Pep in my step for two reasons. Number one, the Jags won. Number two, I get to be the opening act for Buddy Martin. You don't get that every day, okay? So I'm all fired up. Things are good over here. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Frank. We're going to talk college football with you as well, but let's go back to Sunday. You're the play-by-play voice for the Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of people were talking negative about this team. You know, releasing Leonard Fournette, a couple other trades. And such a young football team, starting a guy that wasn't even drafted at the starting running back position. But, man, they were fun to watch.
Yeah, they really were. Number one, you hit it. So many people thought they were going to stink, and they still might have one game. But I think we all kind of had a collective chip on our shoulders, Shane. Everyone was like, okay, they let us play and let this team play a little bit. They did play well. Look, they got outgained by 200 yards. The Colts had the ball most of the time. The Colts turned it over a bunch, which helped the cause. But, yeah, for one day, it was fantastic. The running back you talked about, James Robinson, is really good. One thing about running backs is you can find running backs. That's the one thing. Probably drafted Leonard a little too high. So they found something in this guy, Robinson. Minshew played great. Jay Gruden called a great game, who you know. Has a pretty good understanding of what he's got in his quarterback, pretty good understanding of what he's got in his team. Oh, it was a great win. You talk about a feel-good win. I think people around here felt better about that one than they have a game in a long time, Shane. So that was a great day in Jacksonville, I promise you.
Yeah, you talked about Gardner Minshew. He goes 19 of 20. I don't care if you're playing a Pop Warner team or if you're doing it just routes on air. That's hard to do, especially in that league.
You better believe it's a hard league to be 19 of 20 in. He is really efficient. He's a really smart guy. Doug Marrone told me last year, calling the games, on Fridays I get a little time with Doug, just Doug and me, just talking about what the game plan is going to be, what are you going to do, give me an idea of what we're calling. He told me last year, in all his years of doing this, as a player, as an assistant coach, as a head coach, he's never seen a guy who can take what you give him in the classroom, what you do on the board, to the field that quickly to be that young. He's never seen a first or second year player that can understand the concepts of what they're doing. He's not a high reps guy, doesn't need a lot of reps. And so he's a really smart guy. Shane, he played better. His Achilles heel last year was he left the pocket too early. You gotta let the pocket develop sometimes, even when it doesn't feel like it's going to. I thought one of the big moments in the game, I don't know if you saw the game or not, but in the second half, he took a coverage sack, held the ball, nothing there, took a sack. Now, as you grow and mature, ultimately you're going to throw that ball away, right? You're not going to take the sack. But I thought it was progress for Gardner because he didn't bail on the pocket. You know, you grow in steps. I don't care what job you're in. You grow in steps. And one step was he trusted his pocket. Now, again, get rid of the ball. Don't take the coverage sack. But he's growing every day. He's a good player. He's tough. These guys believe in him. He's a good leader. He's extremely accurate. He's one of these guys that's better on game day than he was at practice. His juices get flowing. He's fun to watch, and it was a fun game Sunday for sure.
Yeah, we talk about Jay Gruden. You know, he's worked with quarterback. He played quarterback. He's always had really good quarterback play. I feel like everywhere he's coached, whether as a head coach or as a coordinator. Your thoughts on obviously, you already mentioned that he called a great game, which I agree. But I just feel like he may be, and I don't know who all the Jaguars have had as the OC there. Right. But to me, I think he might be the best that they've had that I can remember.
I totally agree with that. We had that conversation on our radio show yesterday. Shane might be the best coordinator they've had. It's been one game, right? Kevin Gilbride was pretty good back in the day when they had Brunell and Baselli and Jimmy Smith and Fred Taylor. But no, I agree with you. He's really good. He figured out early on what he had. What he had was he wasn't sure about his running back, who's not here anymore. He's got a really smart quarterback in Gardner Minshew. But Gardner's not a guy that's going to sit back there on his back foot like John Elway and fire missiles. He's not that guy. He's got to step into his throws. He's going to need a clean pocket. He's not going to. He throws a good deep ball, Shane. So, but he's not going to fire 25-yard outs like some quarterbacks can. So Jay knows what he's got. Gardner said the other day, he said, look, I'm never going to have a plus arm in this league. He's a pretty honest guy, very introspective. So Jay knows what he has. Look, they're going to be fun to watch. Keep an eye, and they've got good receivers. This guy Chenault, the rookie out of Colorado, is really good. DJ Chark, I think, is going to be a star in the league. The four primary skill guys, Minshew, the running back James Robinson, and those two receivers, they're pretty good now. Again, that's been one game, but I've been at every day at training camp, and you watch these guys, and I've watched a lot of training camps over the years. I'm telling you, those four guys are pretty good. They're going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. Switching over to the defensive side of the ball, Gator C.J. Henderson had a big day in his debut. I've always been a huge C.J. Henderson fan. I've always said that I thought he could be the best defensive back to ever come out of the University of Florida in a long time. Your thoughts on how he played Sunday?
Oh, he played great. He might have been the player of the game. You know, he's interesting, Shane. He didn't talk. You know, quarterbacks are always talking. Cornerbacks are talking when they go to lunch. They're talking when they go out at night. Cornerbacks are talkers, right? They're talking trash, and they're just talking. CJ's a quiet guy. He's a hard guy to get to know. I wasn't as far along as you are. Last year, he was okay. 2 years ago at Florida, I thought he was very good. And then I heard the truth is he played on that high ankle a lot last year. Probably shouldn't have been playing. But he's such a good guy, and he's such a team guy. He pretty much told them they weren't going to keep him out of that Auburn game. They weren't going to keep him out of that LSU game. Even though he was banged up, he was going to play. So he didn't look as good. But when he got healthy at the combine, at workouts, he looked really good. This is a guy that's a good player. He's fast. He's really fast. Yet he's more physical than I thought. Did you realize he was going to be that physical? He was more physical than I expected him to be. He tackled 5 tackles. First career game, 5 tackles, 3 passes defended, which is a bunch in an NFL game, and a crucial interception. He also broke up the pass to end the game, essentially. Oh, I thought he was fantastic. Way more physical than I thought he'd be. That's a good thing. I didn't think he'd be that physical.
Yeah, I mean, usually corners, as you mentioned, they don't want to hit anybody.
Right.
Now, whether he just wanted to come out early in his career and kind of make a statement that I'm a physical type corner, we shall see as his season progresses. But yeah, I thought he was outstanding. And the other portion of that defense, Miles Jack was just flying around. You know, I don't know if, like I said, I don't follow the Jaguars, but I want to say he's in a different position now, right, Frank?
Correct, and that's the whole thing. The way that defense, it's not a 3-4 that everybody thought they were going to go to. It's not a 2-gap defense. They're not built for a 2-gap defense. So it's a 4-3, but a 4-3, as you know, in the right 4-3, the will linebacker can freelance a little bit. He can fly. Miles was playing Mike linebacker, and he just wasn't the right guy. He's got the radio, and he was getting the defensive set. That wasn't the problem, but he couldn't fly around. Now with Joe Schobert there, who's a pretty good middle linebacker, that moves Miles back to his more natural position, a weak side linebacker. I agree with you. 12 tackles. He was all over the field. You saw 44 the whole time, obviously. So that's a big adjustment. They improved 2 positions by signing Joe Schobert. They got better at middle linebacker, and they got better at the weak side. I thought Miles played great. I really did. I thought he had a first.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Frank Frangie on the Titan Moore Hotline. You can follow Frank on Twitter at Frank_Frangie. Frank, the Jags had fans in the stands. Now, it wasn't a whole lot,
right,
but you were telling me before we came on, you guys in the radio booth are not traveling. So you're going to be broadcasting. I believe the Jags play Tennessee this week.
That's correct.
In Nashville. That's a shame you can't go to Nashville. That's my favorite city in the country.
Me too. Ditto.
But so I know you've never done it. What are you expecting? And are other broadcasters throughout the National Football League doing the same thing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So all the baseball people are doing it. Major League Baseball came down with an edict that none of the teams' broadcasters could travel. So they all had to set it up with monitors and call it remotely. So I got some buddies in baseball, so we've talked about it. I've not done it. As of about a week ago, 25 of the 32 were not traveling. Now, the league didn't make an edict like baseball did, Shane. So you had your choices here. But most of the folks are not traveling. So I think most are not doing it. Having said that, I've not done it. Tony Baselli, Jeff Logman have not done it. We're going to have 3 monitors, it looks like, big monitors in front of us. One is a truck feed of the game, which essentially is what you'll see on television, only without the delay, right? But that's going to be in front of me. To the left is going to be an all-22. So the analysts need to see the all-22. They need to see what happened down the field. What's the point of having an analyst if you just watch it on a regular TV? So he'll have an all-22. which shows all the players on the field. And then there will be a monitor to the side that's a numerical monitor for us. Every stat you possibly could want, every update. Clock and I'm going to need clock and score. If you do radio right, you should probably do clock and score every 5 minutes of real time, not clock time, but every 5 minutes of real time. At the longest, you should make sure that listener knows the score and the time. So I'll have numerical to my right. I'll have truck feed. At least we haven't done it yet, by the way. So ask me this in a couple of weeks, and I'll tell you how it went. A truck feed in front of me, which is everything you'll see, only real time, and then we'll have it all 22. So that's the plan right now. We've got a big room set up. We're socially distanced because that's the law, right? So we have a pretty good idea how we'll do it. You know what, Shane? I'm excited about it because it's something new. New stuff is exciting, but I've not done it, so we'll kind of find out, see how it goes.
So have you talked to some of your other broadcast buddies from other teams in the NFL that did their games this Sunday, and what it was like? At least y'all had some fans in the stands.
Right.
Nobody else had fans in the stands, and I just got to think that had to be a strange deal.
Yeah, we have not talked yet. With some of my buddies, one of my buddies had to opt out for a game that wasn't able to do it. I've got to call into my buddy Mike Keith from he's one of my closer friends, does the Titans game from Denver to see how it went. I've talked to a lot of baseball guys. How's it going? They had to make some adjustments. The monitor was here. They wanted it here. They wanted a different IFB. So they've had to make some adjustments. I have not talked. Remember, there's no preseason. So this was it. This was the first weekend. On Tuesday, I've not. But by the time we get in there on Sunday, hopefully I'll have had 2 or 3 conversations with guys who did it. As for the fan thing, it's weird. Jacksonville, now there's some piped in sound. There's some ambient sound that they do mechanically, like baseball does. But it felt the same. There weren't as many people. I think Jacksonville probably had 17,000. That's probably how many were in there. I would say in a typical game, the Jags seat 65, they announce 61. You got a feeling there's a lot of times there's some no-shows, so there's 50, 55 in there. This time there was close to 20 with some ambient sound. In the booth, it didn't feel different. I'm telling you, it did not feel. Now, if a team's playing with no fans, that might be a little bit different. But calling that game Sunday, the fan thing was not a distraction. You know, sometimes you'll look at it, you watch something. Watching golf on TV, I know you feel, it's not a distraction. I don't even notice they're not there. Baseball, I kind of notice it because you have that center field camera and there's nobody behind the dish. But it was not a distraction for me at all calling the first game.
So recapping the first week of the National Football League, anything stand out in your mind from the league?
Yeah, I thought, boy, Tom Brady looked mortal, didn't he? Now, look, they're playing one of the best teams in the league, maybe the best team. But boy, it just didn't look right. And I know his first game with all those guys together, and the Bucs will still have a good year. But Tom Brady's never looked mortal. Even when they lose, it's usually not his fault. He looked mortal. I thought the Seahawks looked really good. I think they may have the best team. I didn't watch the Ravens game. I didn't go back and watch it, but obviously they've got a really good team. Seahawks jumped off the page for me. The fact that Tom Brady and the Bucs looked so mortal, I think kind of surprised me a little bit. Those 2 things more than anything else. And obviously the Chiefs. The Chiefs are the best team. So
he's the best I've ever seen. Speaking of Frank Frangie here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline, a few more minutes with Frank. Let's switch over to college football, yeah. Frank. Your thoughts on our good friends up there in Tallahassee?
Oh, boy, was that gross. Here's the problem: is the quarterback's not any good. James Blackman has earned the right to play because he's a good guy. He's a good guy in the locker room. In a locker room that was a disaster, Shane, he was the one shining the light. He was a good team guy. He's a guy coaches could go to. So he's going to get an opportunity. Chubba Purdy, the freshman out of Arizona, was going to start. Whether they've announced that or not, I can tell you he was going to be their starting quarterback, and he got hurt. Blackman's not very good, and it looked the same, didn't it? What I'm told, I've got buddies over there that they're way more well coached, that they're more organized, that they're on time, that they're disciplined. But the team looked the same way it did under Willie Taggart, and I think a lot of that's the quarterback play. Here's the thing: I always felt like, and you'll appreciate this. I said this on the other day, and it has to do with you a little bit. I always felt like this FSU team was the Gators under Galen and Darnell. A lot of good players, they just weren't quite sure what to do. And then Spurrier got there and made you the quarterback and got the best out of Godfrey Miles and Polk and all those guys, and all of a sudden it was a really good team. I don't know that I thought FSU was that good, but I felt like it was a similar storyline. You know what I mean? That pretty good players, they just didn't know what to do with them. Or I think I might have been wrong about that. That team didn't look like the Galen Hall, Darnell teams that just needed a good coach. That team looked lost. Georgia Tech ran for all those yards. They're supposed to have a great defensive line. They had 400 yards total offense with a freshman quarterback. So, oh boy, I think it's a mess up there in Tallahassee, Shane. I really do.
I do too. You know, the thing that stood out to me in that game, Frank, is Florida State just didn't look fast to me, especially in the backfield. I don't know who their backs are, but they're always got dudes back there that can run. And they just did not look like a fast football team to me. But I agree. I do think they looked improved from an organizational standpoint. But, yeah, it all starts with the quarterback, and I don't think he's their guy. Now, what are your thoughts about the Big 12 losing 3 home games to the Sun Belt?
Well, you didn't know, honestly, how the change in schedule was going to affect people. Baseball didn't have full spring training. Football had training camps but no preseason games. College had some teams reporting, some teams didn't. How long do you train and just get your bodies in shape, and how long do you actually practice? You never knew who that was going to affect until they started playing games, right? I don't think the Big 12 is a very good league. I think it's Oklahoma and sometimes Texas, and the rest of them aren't any good. That's my opinion of the league. But I don't think you'd have seen Kansas, Kansas State, and Iowa State all lose without the pandemic. I think the fact of the matter is those 3 Sun Belt teams did a better job managing it than the Big 12 teams did. Iowa State's got a really good coach and a really good quarterback and a pretty good team. They looked awful. So that was weird. I think part of it's the pandemic. But, yeah, that's a tough loss, man. You only get 10 games, you know. You only get that one non-conference game. Don't mess it up. The Big 12 is not very good. Oklahoma looked good, but they played nobody. But, Shane, I've always thought it's a 2-team league. I think the old Big 8 was a 2-team league with Nebraska and Oklahoma. You're too young to appreciate that. But I think the Big 12 is a 2-team league. I think it's Oklahoma, Texas, and
I agree.
Nobody else.
Your thoughts on the Big 10? Are they going to play football?
Who knows? I think the reason they didn't vote is because they didn't have enough votes. They got to get 9 positive votes. The group pushing for this, I don't think they had 9 votes. I think they got to play. I said this before. You think it looks bad before? How bad is it going to look when Clemson and Notre Dame start playing? Well, that's when they get really upset. Okay. What about when Alabama and LSU start playing? Then they're still sitting at home. I think they've got to play because of the peer pressure, but it's frustrating it's taking this long.
Last thing, we got a text here on the Titan Mart text line from George. George wants to know, Frank, can you tell us what the testing procedures are for COVID in the NFL?
Yeah, every day. It's every day. It's a nose test right now. They want to get to the saliva test, which other people are doing. But right now, everybody in Tier 1, Shane, that's players, coaches, immediate staff, like the guys that are with them every day, trainers, tested every single day. And that's why they've been able to stay so clean. So they're tested every day. So
let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this the other day, flipping around, watching all the games. And I wasn't, at Florida, they're tested three times a week.
Right.
And I didn't know it was every day in the NFL. So once anybody that runs out of that locker room onto the field on Sunday is got a negative test.
That's correct.
Why are the coaches still having to wear the mask?
Yeah, it's great. I don't know that answer. I think some of that is optics, to be honest with you. I think, you can test negative and the incubation period is still in play. So you could test negative today and have it and not quite, it just hasn't, the positive hasn't showed up yet. And I act like I'm some epidemiologist. I'm not. I'm just what I hear. But I think that's the reason. I think part of it's optics, Shane. Look, everybody watches the NFL, right? Everybody. So let's make sure we're showing them we're doing the right thing. I think it's a little bit of both. So I think.
I got
it. Hey, are you playing any golf? You play golf still? Play a lot of golf?
Yeah, try to play once a week's my goal.
I need a quick golf update, a tip from you, okay? So I'm playing 10 days ago, right? And I'm a 10, Shane. I'm not a +2 like you are. So I'm about a 10, and I broke it. I probably haven't broke 80 in about 12, 15 rounds. So I'm playing. And I get to 18, and I need to make par to shoot 79. Hit it left a little bit. You know our coach. I live at Jacksonville Golf and Country Club, so a little left of the trap there. I chip it to about 4.5 feet. Right now it's hot. It's about 1,000 degrees out there. It's 4.5 feet. With the match is over, my two buddies beat the other. Me and my buddy beat the other 2 guys. 4. It's around the leather. You with me? Right there. My buddy says, pick it up. Well, they don't know my overall score, right? I'm not picking it up. So I missed the putt. Now I'm kicked off. Okay. So, now I'm mad at them. I'm mad at my wife. I'm mad at the dog. I'm mad at the neighbors. I'm kind of mad at you right now. Okay. So should I have picked it up and written down the 79? Shane, you're a golfer. You're like a golf guy. I need advice from you on this.
Well, the reason I think golf is the greatest sport in the world is because you have rules you play by, and you play by them. We don't have a 75-yard touchdown pass callbacks because some dude called holding on the left tackle.
Right.
You have the rules. That's a great question, because I'm a firm believer. I like to putt everything out. I like to play real golf. So was it in the leather or outside the leather?
We never measured. The guy said, pick it up. And I said, no, they don't know what my score is, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not picking it up. I hadn't broken 80 in 12 rounds. I'm not picking it up. But I'm still mad about it. Now I think I should have picked it. I think I should have picked it up, bought all the beer, shot my 79. But I knew you would not. See, I trust you. I trust your golf knowledge is why I asked you this question.
Well, what y'all need to do is you have your match play, but you also implement a stroke play bet in there too, and then everybody has to put them out.
See, I knew you'd give me good advice on that. That's why I came to you for this kind of stuff. Exactly. There you go.
Frank, hey man, enjoy the call from 1010XL Studios. Let everybody know how they can listen to the Frank Frangie Show as well.
Yeah, certainly. It's 1010XL.com. Our stream is very easy to find. We'd love to have people listen to us. We tweet out that stream a lot, as a matter of fact. So if you get a chance to listen to us and tune in, or on the NFL Game Pass, you can listen to our game call. Love to have you do that as well. Shane, thanks for having me, buddy. It's a lot of fun.
All right, Frank. That's Frank Frangie. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. When we come back, we'll be joined by Buddy Martin. You're watching and listening. PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Hey Gator Nation, this is your former head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Check out our show Inside the Huddle with Shane Matthews and Steve Russell every Tuesday during football season on 8:50 a.m. and 98.1 FM WRUF at 10 o'clock a.m.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Gainesville Turnover Specialist. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Celebration Point Town Center. Center State Bank. Chris Doring Mortgage. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Radware, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Tuesday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I want to thank Frank Frangie, voice of the Jacksonville Jaguars, recapping their big win over the Indianapolis Colts. Celebration Point's where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Medici's, Regal Cinemas, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. We're going to get ready. We're going to head right now to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to be joined by our good friend, Buddy Martin. Good morning, Buddy. How are you?
Good morning, Shane. I'm doing terrific. We got football under the belt. Got started. That's a good thing. All of it was not great, as we saw. But, hey, it's football. It's here, and I can't wait till the 26th when the big boys start playing. But to your point about the smaller colleges, you know what? The most enjoyable games are really the ones in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, so I was going to get on you, buddy.
Yeah, I heard you.
How about those kids get to go into those stadiums, the Big 12, play? Well, they don't get to play in front of a big crowd because there were some of them, there were no crowds. But, man, Sun Belt, put it on the Big 12.
You're right. And I heard you hollered at me all weekend. See, I told you, buddy. This is because it was those were the most enjoyable games, and it was great to see. And by the way, Louisiana can play. I mean, they got ball players and they got their passing game. I love what they're doing.
Yeah, it's a good little league. There's some good teams in there, good players. So it was fun to see that. But before we jump into the Gators, I want to get your thoughts on what was going on up in Tallahassee with the semis.
Well, first of all, it was very hard to watch. I mean, I really had to focus and force myself not to turn the channel. But it just never got any better. And FSU finally got on the scoreboard. But I wouldn't panic. I mean, a lot of people are ready to fire Norvell already. He's coached one game. Norvell's a heck of a good coach and a pretty good recruiter. But there's no question that there's that Jimbo left that place. Speaking of dumpster fires, as we talked about, left it in a mess. And so you question what went wrong. They got athletes. There's no question. Their offense is ragged. It's a new system, and they'll get it right. But it may be a tough season for Seminole. In fact, it will be a tough season for Seminole fans who are used to winning.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a long year for them. I think the quarterback position, not getting on James Blackman, but I think we've seen enough of him to know that he's not the answer. Yeah. But, I was telling Frank earlier in the show, buddy, Florida State just doesn't look like a fast football team to me.
I heard you.
They just don't have a whole lot of – this may sound silly because we know these kids can run, but they didn't play fast. I felt like Georgia Tech was the faster team.
They were. A quarterback could really run. He was fast. Remember this now. Dalvin Cooks don't fall off the back of turnip trucks, okay? I mean, that guy's a heck of a player. You saw by his contract. And had he not been hurt at FSU, he'd have put up big, huge numbers. And so you're not going to say what's like, well, Fred Taylor doesn't live in Gainesville anymore. Although I must say I got some good things to say about the Florida backs from what we've been told. They got ample talent in the backfield of Florida. But, yeah, there was a step maybe missing here and there. And, look, here's what we're missing in all this. Shane, you of all people should know this. A quarterback and an offense is all about timing. You played in a timing system your whole career, right? And when you miss out on that timing part, and you don't have those same players playing together. It's like basketball, 5 guys playing together. You got to know where they are, what they're doing, and be able to anticipate. That instinctive timing is not there for some. Look at Tom Brady. I mean, he's still Tom Brady. He's still got an arm. He can still throw. He's still a terrific quarterback. And he has still got talent, but he couldn't. The timing wasn't there. And I talked a little bit with Dan Mullen about this yesterday on a press conference. So, yeah. So look, this is where the practices and lack of spring ball, whatever. That's where that shows up.
Yep. Speaking of Coach Mullen's press conference yesterday, buddy, fill us in on some of the things that came out of that.
Well, among other things, there's supposed to be some announcements today about COVID. Now, you might know because you have a son on the team, but they expect some positives, but Mullen wouldn't say, and he says some might be false positives. I mean, you got to have a new glossary. What's a false positive?
Right.
It obviously means that you've been tested positive, but you weren't really positive. So he kind of hinted on that a little bit because let's be honest, Florida's been living large on that in this department. One case up to now in the last 2 months, and they've been clean. And Dan didn't seem overly concerned about it, but you're always concerned about it. Because look, right now, really, other than Alabama, what could be standing in the way of Florida and a championship is COVID. And, we do this Urban Meyer podcast, which we'll talk about in a minute, in which Urban feels very good and thinks they might win the championship, thinks they will win the championship. So if you're Dan Mullen, you're covering your bases. And yesterday he was quite good. He talked a little chuckle about the fire and the dumpster fire there. And I tweeted out that, hey, look, this could be Georgia's year. If they have a tornado in Tuscaloosa and they have a fire in Gainesville and they have a hurricane in Baton Rouge, the Bulldogs got a chance to win it all. So there you go. But so yeah, I think the timing is important. What we're seeing is showing up in the passing game. The good news, what Dan Mullen said was Justin Shorter got really big props. He really, I won't say raves because he hasn't seen him yet, but his game, he's every facet of it. His blocking, his instinctive, his route running, his intensity. I mean, Mullen really likes this guy. This can only be good news for the Gators, who, by the way, are just a couple of receivers away from being really good in that department.
Well, the receiving core, I think, is very deep. I know a lot of people don't think that, but I think they have some extremely talented young kids that are going to play this year. I think 2 true freshmen will play at the wide receiver position. A couple of redshirt freshmen will have a lot of playing time. So I know a lot of national media people, because you lost 4 guys that all made NFL rosters. You feel like you're going to miss a beat, which you will a little bit. But I mean, it's Florida, buddy. We should have dudes stacked up at the receiver position waiting to play.
You're preaching to the choir, brother. I've been telling you all this time, all those statues out there, you ought to be one more. There needs to be 5. You can guess who the other one ought to be. Actually, ought to be 6, but that's another story. And this is Florida. This is where they grow skill position players, not to mention the states of Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana they pick up from. And when you can't put a quarterback on the field, which Florida couldn't for 10 years, at least for the whole season, and you can't get a group of wide receivers to get separation, and that's what I always heard about the problem with the receivers. They couldn't get separation. That ain't right, man. Something's wrong. And now I think they fixed that. And you're talking about 2 different things. You're talking about national perception and what's local knowledge. You have local knowledge. I have a little bit. The national perception is, how can Florida be good at receiver? Because they got 4 guys, some singers that went to the NFL. But again, there's a lag in that perception and reality. I'm very high I'm bullish on the receivers. I think they're really good like you. But you taught me too, Shane. Let's see what they do on the field. Let's see what they can do in the game. There's a whole lot of difference in the 2.
No, there is. And I mean, you got Kadarius Toney coming back, and I know a lot of people are excited for him. He needs to have a good year, buddy. It's that simple. He's been injured a lot. I want to see if he's improved as an actual receiver. We know he can take jet sweeps. We know he can catch shallow crosses, but can he catch the ball down the field? Mm-hmm. Grimes is a big target coming back that will definitely help us. But the kid from Dunellen, is it Dunellen?
Yes, he's from Dunellen. Yes.
Yeah. And then C.J. Henderson's brother, Xavier Henderson.
Wow, he's getting raves.
He's going to be elite. And then, obviously Justin Shorter just got approved to play. Trent Whittemore's a guy.
Trent Whittemore.
All he does is just catch balls. I mean,
he's the new. I hate to say it this way. He's the new Chris Doring, but faster.
He's way more athletic than Doring.
Oh, come on now! Stop
He's bigger, stronger, and faster than Doring.
Now, wait a minute. He hadn't caught a pass yet, and Doring set all kind of records. You're just talking about how much better he is than Doring.
I said he's a better athlete.
Now you're saying he's better than Doring. I know what you're saying.
So you but we'll make sure Chris sees this. But he's similar type player, but he's a lot faster than Chris, and dude can jump, and he's extremely talented. So I'm excited about the receivers. But are you talking about at the running back position? I feel pretty good about these guys. What about you?
Well, I mean, they got so many, they're moving them around, and the names are not even mentioned. Daquan Wright's getting a lot of good kudos from, here's a guy, we know Lorenzo Lingard's got promise, but Mullen talked about him yesterday, loves him. The problem is he doesn't know the offense yet, which I'm sure means he can't pick up blitz protection and whatever, things of that nature. But Mullen likes him because he gives all. He's a hard worker. He learns. You tell him something, he remembers it, and he really has a lot of want to. He wants to play and wants to do well, And so, Malik Davis is getting, people are talking about how good he is, and he was interviewed last week and talking about how he's okay with being under the radar. People think he's injured, and they don't realize what a good player he is. He's a really good pass receiver. So they got 4 guys that can put back there. Pierce might be the best one. I don't know. So this is going to be running back by committee again because Mullen likes to play 2-3 a game. And I'm interested to see who else plays in that slot, when we get down to that. But I think the running back situation, if you start evaluating, which we're going to do on my show and probably some on your show, the position groups, if you start going down them right now, I mean, I'm not ready to make a prediction, but I'm giving the defense a checklist. They are good. They got lots of players. And people say, yeah, they have a defensive lineman and whatever. Mullen talked nothing but great things about these young linemen. He really likes these young linemen. I mean, you can, with not just Gervon Dexter, but others. So he's good there. We know they got some monster possibilities on linebackers, their DBU. They got loaded with talent on defense. Offensively, we love the quarterback position. We love the quarterback. Who's got two quarterbacks going into the season in the SEC? Who? Nobody.
Well,
not proven.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think right off the top of my head. I think Alabama's going to play two, but we haven't.
Yeah, but they don't have two proven quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And just Mississippi would come fairly close, but they're not tied, not tied. And, Corral will see what he can do, but he's the guy that Florida wanted. And Plumlee, those two guys are good. But if you look at the rosters and check them out, now I'm not saying there's not talent there before you start jumping on my case about that. Yeah, but buddy, you're forgetting all these guys. Yeah, I get it. There's talent there. So I mean, get back to the position groups ramble on here, but if you just start adding up receiver checklist, running back check, quarterback checklist, special teams while we're hearing the Australian punters doing really well. Offensive line is getting good reports. Well, I'm talking good about them. So again, we don't get to see these game practices. By the way, they're having, you may or may not know, a mock game on Thursday where they're going to go through everything. Come to the bus, I don't know if they're at the bus, go to the locker room, get dressed, go on the field, go to pregame, do everything except they're not putting helmets on and they're not scrimmaging. But they're going through everything. This is where Mullen is brilliant, in my opinion. He's simulating game conditions, right?
Well, you kind of have to because things have changed. Their routine changes.
Everything.
I've talked to, the way the entire team can't get dressed at the same time. It's bizarre. You talk about the position checklist, buddy. For Florida to have a really good year, you know where the most critical position group is in my mind?
Position group?
Yes.
You're going to say linebackers.
That would be number two. Number one for me is the D-line. I just think the D-line is going to have to play at a high level for us to have the year we want. Mm-hmm. I have some concerns there. No particular reason. I just do right now. Hope I'm wrong, but we shall see. So, buddy, did you watch some of the ACC this week?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, well, Clemson, the score doesn't indicate.
Boring. I couldn't watch it.
It's so boring. But they're the most dominant team. Notre Dame didn't look great to me, and this is all week one. But still, I didn't think Notre Dame was very impressive. We all know about Florida State, but Clemson's going to just run right through the ACC.
Well, are they? ACC, except for Notre Dame, I don't think they'll run over Notre Dame. They may beat them. I think Notre Dame can play better than they did. I think Notre Dame is the second best team in the ACC. I'm not sold on North Carolina. They came on late and won. The score looked good, but they struggle for three quarters.
So how's the podcast going with Urban?
Good. And I want to talk about Billy Gonzalez if I have time today too.
Yes. What do you got for Billy?
Urban was, by the way, Urban, if you haven't seen my new favorite show, I'm not just saying this because I do a podcast with him. I watched The Big Noon for 2 hours. It started at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's still called The Big Noon on Fox. And while I'm not a huge fan of a lot of those other guys, they're all football guys. And I think it's a better show in many ways than ESPN without the bells and whistles because they talk football. They have good conversation. And I think game day has become a gimmick. I think it's all like who can we get on? How many times can we laugh? Make fun of things and talk about Herbie or whatever. Lee Corso, all good. But I'm telling you, The Big Noon for a football show on Fox is a better show for football people, in my opinion. Urban had a really good day there. We did a podcast on Friday when he arrived in L.A. By the way, if you're interested in hearing it, go wherever you go to podcast. It could be up under, it might be under the Buddy Martin Show. I'm not sure where Ben put it. It's called The Best Fridays in Football, which is a great name, because that's Urban's name. He made a comment and he thinks Florida's going to win it all. He said, win the SEC. He didn't say the East. He said, win the SEC. He's picked them. He thinks it'll be a Final Four team. I'm sure Dan's saying thanks a lot, Urban, for that. But he was good. And here's a point that we made on Friday, which he brought up on Saturday. And I want you to think about this and comment on it. I said this to Urban, and he said it on the air Saturday. The greatest schedule in the history of college football is being played this year by SEC teams.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, the most difficult schedules being played in the history of college football are about Arkansas and who's the other team? Arkansas has the hardest schedule I've ever seen.
They do.
I don't know if they can win a game. But it's going
but I hope Felipe gets one or two in there. I hate to see him go up there and not get something. But, there's question and within the SEC. And Urban's point was this, and you could speak to this. He said, here's the difference in playing a regular schedule without the cupcakes. Hallelujah, no cupcakes. I'm glad for that. But is that you don't get that respite. You don't get that relief. You don't play Georgia and Alabama and LSU and then get a chance to take a week off and play directional school. You don't get that. So that's something and Urban said, when I would go in the training room after a big game like LSU or Georgia on Tuesdays, and I see a bunch of guys. And I'll say, when will they be ready? I said, maybe Thursday. So that's the residual impact of every week getting pounded and pounding on people, especially defensive linemen. That was a great point, I thought. It is that's really what the difference is. So I use the word greatest, and you use the word toughest, and you were speaking of individual schedules in Arkansas, and they sure got a tough one. But in terms of best games, think about it. Nobody has ever in the history of college football played a schedule like the SEC teams. It's amazing. It's why I said to you before, I'll say it again. I know you get tired of hearing me talk about it, but, when you're beating filet Montbellon every day, you're not going to want to eat Spam anymore. And the fans are going to want this, Shane, every week.
Well, that's true. And I agree with Urban. It's going to be a bloodbath every Saturday because you're playing very difficult competition, except, some people can say you get a week off when you play a Vanderbilt type team. But they're still in the SEC. They got some good players. The thing that stood out to me over the weekend, buddy, was how some of the games got canceled due to COVID, which it kind of surprises me. And maybe I'm being a little naive because I know what the teams are going through. And that doesn't mean that all collegiate teams are doing the same protocol unless you're in the SEC. SEC has their own stuff. And I've had some of the national media people that I've seen on, whether I was driving around listening to them or it was on TV. It was some of the former athletes that are analysts talking about how a coach may, whether it's the starting quarterback may test positive, but they're going to play him anyway. From my understanding, in the Southeastern Conference, there's an outside source doing all the testing. Okay. It's not like the UF doctors and the UF trainers are doing the testing. This is an outside source hired by the conference. So there's no way, if Buddy Martin's my starting quarterback and you test positive, we can say, okay, you know what, buddy, we're not going to tell anybody. We're going to play you anyway. That can't happen in the SEC with an outside company doing the testing. So I don't know how it's happening in other leagues, but I'm pretty sure that's how it's happening in our conference.
All right, explain that to me again. I didn't quite get that. Tell me again. The outside source is doing the testing.
So basically, there's an outside source, whether it's company XYZ. I'm pretty sure the SEC has hired this outside company they have representatives of every SEC school that does the testing. I could be wrong, but I can't remember where I heard this. And it makes sense. And the reason they're doing that is because of what I just said about those analysts and those former athletes talking about, well, if my starting running back tests positive, maybe the coach can go talk to the trainer and say, hey, we'll just keep it between us. And that can't happen.
Can't happen.
But the reason I say it can't happen is because you can't have the head coach go talk to this outside source doctor or whoever's doing the testing, say, hey, don't turn that test in because they're being paid by the SEC.
You need to get fined by that and fired if you do. And by the way, your friend of mine, Dr. P. Delicato, speaks to that in a heartbeat. There's no way can you allow that to be You need to walk away when you're the coach and your guys got COVID and say, call me when he's ready to play. You can't be over there trying to lobby for it. Can't happen. But you know what? You know, and I know these guys want to win their whole careers on it. And some of that's going to probably happen.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It may happen at some of the smaller schools because I'm not sure what the procedures are there.
Yeah, right.
But this is something that I'm pretty sure is happening in the SEC. So anyway, I'm hoping, the schools, the teams in the SEC can keep the positive tests down. And, just because there were a couple of games in the ACC that had to be moved and changed and what have you coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So it is what it is. We just got to deal with it this year.
Yeah, one of the key words this year is flexibility. I mean, Mullen talked about it yesterday. He went through the discussion of what's different. My word, as you said, everything is different. Your grouping is different with the players. You're rooming differently on the road. We have new roommates. They have some single rooms. Everything's different. And as you know this, since your dad was a coach and you were a coach, coaches like a routine. The routine this year is stay flexible because all of it could change. And the team and the coach and the players that can adapt have the best chance. And that's why I like Mullen. I think his staff, and I mentioned this to him yesterday, the continuity of that staff is amazing. It's not just the ones that we know coach together, Billy Gonzalez and Hevesy and whatever. There's guys like Brian Johnson. He's been with him a long time, played for him. There's a lot of people on that staff. And by the way, Todd Grantham needs to get a little love. I know everybody has talked about him in the past. I think Todd Grantham's going to have a huge year this year as D coordinator. And so I think that is very important in terms of, the routine's different, as you point out. Everything is different. And when Mellon went down the list of what was different, everything was different. So how are they going to adapt to that? How are players going to adapt to that? That's a big question.
Yeah, it's been a strange year, no question. You're exactly right about coaches and players being creatures of habit. Like I said on the show many times, buddy, whoever wins the national championship this year deserves it. And there ain't no damn asterisk put by it because I'm telling you, it's going to be well worth it with the schedule. If an SEC team wins it with the schedule that they have to play with all the COVID stuff, it's been a nightmare from a logistic standpoint of how things have changed for the coaches and the players. And kudos to them for sticking with it because it's been hard on them. I know that for a fact.
It's a great point you made there, and I think you said this, and I said it over the weekend. Hell, they should give 2 trophies, not one for this season, for what they're doing. And you point out, not only should there not be an asterisk, they should be exclamation points, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't that what you said? Your original thought? And I agree with you 100% on that. I think this is, in many ways, this is going to be an amazing season to watch. And Florida's right there in it. Right there in it. And their coaching staff, their players. Now, how this whole thing works out with Mother Nature, I don't know. But again, the team of the players that can adapt and be flexible and who've got talent and continuity and coaching and whatever, and that's the team I got my eye on.
Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. September's your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane to receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. A few more minutes here with Buddy Martin. You can check out his show on Facebook Live weeknights. It's called The Buddy Martin Show.
Tonight. Tonight I'm on, exactly.
Do you think the Big Ten's going to play, buddy?
That's a really perplexing story. It's like waiting, for a Christmas that never comes. I think those people are screwed up. They don't know what they want. And you got 2 different groups. You got the hardcore Ohio State, the Michigan split. The president's not in their corner, but boy, Harbaugh is campaigning like crazy. The Nebraska wants to play and so on. So then you got your other schools like Rutgers. I can understand Rutgers won't play. They'd like to cancel the next 2 or 3 seasons, as bad as they are. But they can't seem to get a consensus. They don't seem to know what they're doing. Again, it points out how lucky Florida, the SEC, is to have Greg Sankey. I admit, I was not a huge Sankey fan. I thought he did okay. I like Mike Slav myself, but this guy has been brilliant. And what he's doing, shepherding them through navigating through these waters, and what he's been doing. If this thing turns out like it might turn out, they should make Sankey the czar of college football because he knows how to run something. I mean, my gosh. And how embarrassing is it now for the Big Ten and the Pac-12? Forget them, as my friend in Denver calls them, a sissy conference. His team is Colorado. He calls them a sissy conference. I think it's going to be really humiliating if they don't get to play a game and they have a great season or other leagues and they have a national champion, no asterisk. What in the hell were they thinking by canceling this early?
Yep, no doubt about it. Well, buddy, appreciate you taking the time. I'll join you tonight.
Give me 2 seconds on Billy Gonzalez. You promised me you would, and you just cut me right.
Make it quick because we got to take our time out and get back and wrap this thing up.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it tonight. Best wide receiver coach in the country, Mullen says. I agree. We'll talk about it on my show.
I agree with that. Appreciate it, buddy. Take care.
All right.
We're going to take our second time out. We come back. We'll wrap this thing up. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Be right back.
Hey Gator Nation, this is your former head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Check out our show Inside the Huddle with Shane Matthews and Steve Russell every Tuesday during football season on 8:50 a.m. and 98.1 FM WRUF at 10 o'clock a.m.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Gainesville Turnover Specialist. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Our touchdown sponsors are Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance, Pomodoro Cafe, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, PRP Regeneration Specialist, and Dowling Signs. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Tuesday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. This day in sports is brought to you by GTS, Gainesville's premier maintenance company. Whether you need carpet cleaning or expert painting, fences mended, or a handyman service, call GTS 352-363-6622. This day in sports in 1961. A guy named Jack Nicklaus at the age of 21 wins the U.S. Amateur Championship. That's brought to you by GTS, Gainesville's premier maintenance company. Really want to thank Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show joining the program. Frank Frangie, you can check out his show weekdays over there in the afternoon drive on 1010XL. He's also the play-by-play voice of your 1-0 Jacksonville Jaguars. Tomorrow's show will be joined by former wide receiver Ernie Mills. Longtime NFL career, had a really good career here at Florida, just a good old guy. So we'll talk and see what Ernie's up to these days, recap his career. He played in the Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. Got a really good show lined up for you the rest of the week. And then next week, you make sure you tune in. We're going to have Coach Bobby Bowden next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow. You'll want to tune in for that. Make sure you get all your friends and family to follow us on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Folks, today's show is a wrap. It's brought to you by Wrap Spot. Be safe out there. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.